Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Mount Lady had a crush on Deku the moment she saw him, Harem, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic Thicc, link is in the description, also subscribe to our channel, and like this video, so let's begin the video. Can someone without a quirk become a hero like you? The teenager had his eyes closed out of nervousness. How could he not? He was in front of the greatest hero in the world, asking the most important question of his life. Because I don't have a quirk, maybe that's not the only reason. But I've always been picked on. Maybe that's why I think that saving people is just about the coolest thing someone can do. He spoke nervously while playing with his thumbs. Then with passionate eyes, he raised his head with a big grin. The way you save people with a fearless smile. I want to be the strongest hero, just like you, what? In front of him wasn't the muscular man known as All Might, instead, there was a scrawny looking guy. After the great shock of the boy, the man proceeded to confirm that he was indeed the great hero All Might and then told him about his current situation, about the wound on his left side of his torso, the reason for his smile. Without power, can one become a hero? No, I should not think so. All Might said without realizing how much damage he was causing to the kid. The scrawny man stood up and began to walk to the exit. It's not wrong to dream. However, you need to be realistic, kid. Those words felt like a guillotine falling with all its might, cutting him in half. If you excuse me, the adult tapped the pocket on his pants, where a bottle was filled with the sludge villain. I have a villain to deliver to the police. He left the boy on the empty rooftop. The teenager stood there with his open mouth, while his eyes were filled with terror, he was frozen. The pain in his heart and the lump in his throat didn't let him move an inch. He began to shiver as tears started to appear in his eyes. This day was without a doubt the second worst day of his life. The first one was when he received the news from a doctor that he wasn't going to develop a quirk because of his pinky toe, and on that same day when he looked for reassurance on his mother, she said the words he wasn't looking for. And now, today. Apart from what just happened, his entire class knew he was going to apply for UA high school and made fun of him for it, and if that wasn't enough, his childhood friend and current bully Katsuki Bakugo didn't take it too well. After staying 10 minutes on the rooftop, the boy, Izuku Midoriya, was on the street on his way somewhere. He still had some tears on his eyes, which he was wiping away. Don't cry. You knew already, right? He scolded himself in his head. He began to rub his eyes with his wrists. It doesn't matter, you are still a hero, Izuku. Now stop crying and put your best smile for her. Taking his own words, Midoriya smiled, as if nothing had happened. It was like All Might said. Smile to stave off the overwhelming pressure and fear. The student began to jog with a big smile to see her. She wasn't a person, but an animal, a stray cat to be precise, a female black cat that he met 2 years ago. It was a normal day, he was on his way home. Like always, he was entertained in his notebook where he wrote everything about heroes, but then a noise took him back to reality. It was a meow. The teenager looked everywhere, trying to find the source of the sound. When he heard it again, he moved his eyes up, finding a black cat stuck on a tree. It was clear that the animal couldn't find a way to climb down. It has to be pretty terrifying to be that high up. The boy wondered aloud. I should call the firefighters. He pulled out his cell phone to do just that. What? No way, the battery died. But I'm sure I charged it this morning. Sigh, do I have some change to make the call? He reached his back pocket and when he touched it, he felt nothing, and that was a big problem. Hey. Where is my wallet? Where? He inspected every pocket and even his school bag, but the wallet was nowhere to be seen. Izuku began to worry more as the time passed until a meow stopped him right away. He looked at the cat again. What am I doing? Someone needs my help, but what can a quirkless person like me do? He wasn't confident, how could he? Everyone has been there to stop and shatter his dream. Then a memory came to his mind. The debut of a certain hero. A man was getting out of a big disaster. The strong-looking man had a ton of people on his back, carrying them with a smile. He'd already rescued hundreds of people in 10 minutes. Fear not. Why, you ask? 'Cause I am here. Before Izuku could notice it, he was already a few meters away from the black cat. He didn't know how he had gotten that far, but that didn't matter. He extended his arm towards the cat. Come here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Don't worry, there is nothing to fear. Because I'm here. Izuku managed to put a forced and shaky smile on his face. He was afraid. If he fell now, he was as good as toast. The boy began to approach slowly. The cat, on the other hand, wasn't looking very friendly, it was hissing at him. It clearly didn't want him there. With a firm conviction, the young boy proceeded, passing his hand under the animal's belly, trying his hardest to ignore the pain of the scratches and bites. The teenager put the cat against his chest, trying to hug it. It's okay. You're not endangered anymore. I'll protect you. His actions paid off, seeing that the animal was calming down. As he got down from the tree, the animal immediately jumped off of him and started running, finally getting out of sight in a corner of the street. Izuku had the brightest face of his life. Was that how being a hero felt? The warmth in his heart felt incredibly good. Of course, he knew what he did wasn't anything out of this world, and probably no one was going to be impressed about it. Heck, if he told Kakin, he would probably make fun of him, but Izuku didn't care. This was the right thing to do, and he felt happy about it. He didn't even care for his bleeding hand. Okay, he should probably care about his hand. That wasn't the last time he saw that stray cat. He encountered it again the next day, but at least the animal wasn't in a tree this time. The boy and the animal locked eyes. The student found himself lost in those emerald orbs until a hiss brought him back. The sound was like she was saying, "What do you want?" in an aggressive way. Izuku crouched. "Are you hungry?" he asked, even knowing they couldn't comprehend each other. Another hiss came out, which he interpreted as, "Get lost. Wait here, I'll return in a sec." The green-haired boy got up and jogged away, leaving the feline there. A couple of minutes later, he returned, as he had promised. "Here, eat up," he said with a smile, putting down a plastic plate on the ground. "It's takoyaki, I bet you like it." With hesitation, the animal got close to the plate, sniffed it a little, and then started to eat it. The boy moved his bandaged hand toward the feline to pet it a little, but was stopped by a hiss from the animal. Sorry, I won't bother you anymore." A few minutes passed until the plate was empty, making a big grin sprout on the boy's face. He had his eyes closed due to his smile, but he opened them when he felt something rough on his injured hand. When his eyes opened, he found the feline licking him, looking at him with apologetic eyes. He smiled again. "Don't worry, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. Besides, it's proof that I was able to rescue you." He petted it, the cat no longer seemed to be against it. "I'll call you Nico. Yeah, not the brightest name, sorry." From that day on, he started meeting with the feline every day after school. It was a nice change of pace. One of those days, he was looking for Nico. He had already bought some takoyaki, her favorite. He found the cat on the other sidewalk of the street when the feline saw him. It began to jog in his direction, meowing happily, unaware of a car that was moving at high speed, but the boy did notice. "Watch out." Without even realizing, he was already in midair over the road. He embraced the cat and rolled away, narrowly dodging the car, which brakes abruptly. From the driver's seat, a man in a black suit came down. He wasn't happy. Do you have any idea of what just happened? You almost got yourself killed." Midoriya just bowed his head apologetically, without retaliating the yelling. Nico, on the other hand, was growling furiously at the man. The boy could almost hear her. "Fuck off. This is your own fault, stupid human." The only thing that prevented her from tearing apart the man was Izuku, who hugged her tightly. "Enough of this." Another yell came from the car, but surprisingly it was for the man. "Didn't you see he saved that cat because of your reckless way of driving?" It was a woman, actually a teenager of about his age. She wore a red fancy dress, hinting she was someone important. She also wore red heels and jewelry. She had long black hair that was tied into a spiky ponytail with a single bang hanging on the right side of her face, and onyx eyes that seemed to resemble a cat. "Miss Yaoi Rozu, please forgive me." The man immediately apologized, bowing. Izuku's eyes were glued to the girl, who defended him. She was the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Without him noticed, a blush crept on his cheeks. The girl approached him. "Are you okay? Are you hurt somewhere?" she asked with a worried look. Taking him by surprise, the boy snapped out of his trance. Yes, I know. I mean, no, I'm not hurt or anything." He stuttered with a flush on his face. He was too nervous because that was his first time talking to a girl, and the prettiest he'd ever seen on top of that. Yeah, there was no way he wouldn't get nervous in front of her. The girl put her right hand on her chest and gave a sigh in relief. "I'm glad to hear that." But even after that, she still had a puzzled face. "Are you going to press charges?" "What? No, no one is hurt, so there's no point in that. Don't worry." He negated his hand while holding the feline with the other. The girl smiled with his response until some words came out of the boy. "It didn't survive." "What?" She freaked out, looking everywhere, trying to find the victim. "So sorry, it was my bad choice of words." Izuku apologized immediately. "I was saying that my takoyaki didn't survive." He pointed to the mashed food that was currently under one of the wheels of the car. "Geez. Don't scare me like that." She yelled at him with a pout on her face. After a few seconds of silence, both teenagers began to laugh. Midoriya didn't have a way of knowing, but the girl was very thankful to him. She was a little nervous before because she was on her way to an important meeting, and a good laugh was just what she needed. "Lady Yaoi Rozu, if we don't hurry, we're going to be late for the meeting." Speaking about the devil, the driver reminded her about it. The young woman nodded with a smile. Well, I'm glad everything is okay. Here, this is for your food. She gave him a handful of money and then turned around and got into her car. Wait. This is too much money for her and she's gone. We didn't even exchange names. He said a little depressed. Yayoi Rozu, he echoed her family name in a low tone and smiled. Overall, he was happy to have talked to a pretty girl. He then lowered his gaze and looked at Nico in his arms. It looked mad with him for some reason. What? He asked, tilting his head a little. Slap. The cat gave him a Nico slap, making him squeal an ouch. It was something cute, but still, it hurt a little. After that day, their bond grew even more and strong emotions didn't lack for long. Izuku often found himself saving the feline from various things, such as a pack of dogs, other stray cats or even bad people looking for something to entertain themselves. And soon after, the boy began to think of himself as the hero of that black cat. On a rainy day, the animal was shivering because she had nothing to protect herself from the rain. She was astonished when she noticed the boy in front of her with an umbrella over their head with a big smile on his face. It wasn't surprising that the cat jumped on his arms. They took refuge under a bridge until the storm stops, the same bridge where he would be attacked by a sludge villain in 2 years and then saved by his hero. When moments like this happened, the young man shared his life with the feline. He told her everything. About his childhood friend turning into a bully, about him being quirkless, about his dream. Yeah, it was nice to open up to someone that didn't judge or neglect you because of the absurdity of your dream. It made him truly happy. And like that, 2 years passed until the current day, where he was rejected by his biggest hero. As usual, he had a plastic bag with a bowl of takoyaki in it. He has been roaming the area, looking for the animal without much luck. Izuku proceeded to cross the street, making sure the light was green. But, without warning, a car turned from a corner at full speed. By the look of it, it could be said they were thieves, and behind them were police patrols to confirm it. They were going to hit him, if not because he felt something was pushing him away from the road. Everything happened in slow motion due to the adrenaline. In midair, he rotated himself to look at the person who pushed him. But much to his horror, he found Nico there, in the air. Everything went to normal as he saw how the thief car hit her and threw her up in the air. His eyes and mouth went wide in horror. No longer than 10 meters away from him, the thieves were caught by a hero, but the teenager didn't care in the slightest. No, no, no. With tears in his eyes, the boy began to crawl desperately in the direction of his companion. When he reached her, he took it in his arms. It was still alive, but not for long if all the blood around him was an indicator. No, Nico, no, this is not happening. You're going to be alright, okay? He began to lull her in his arms as uncontrollable tears fell from his eyes. No, this is not happening, this is a dream, yeah, it has to be. He denied with his head desperately. Someone please, someone, wake me up. The boy gritted his teeth while squeezing his eyes. Her voice made him open his eyes, forcing him to accept that this was the cruel reality. He hugged her tight, whimpering and whining over her, feeling that if he stopped hugging her, she would disappear. With her last drops of strength, the feline approached her head to the boy and licked his lips to finally let her head rest and never wake up again. Izuku began to cry loudly towards the sky, as if he was cursing everything. What is this day? Why did this happen? It was as if the world itself was telling him to quit trying to be a hero. Why was he alive? What was he born for? What was his purpose? Memories came to his mind. So Deku, the quirkless wonder, thinks he can play the hero, huh? The first one was from Kaken when they were kids. I'm afraid there's no hope for him. The second was from the doctor that told him he was quirkless. I'm sorry Izuku, I'm sorry. The third was from his mother. It's not wrong to dream. However, you need to be realistic, kid, and last, his hero, All Might. This was too cruel. As he cried more of his heart crumbled. Being a hero. What a foolish person he was to have such a dream. He couldn't even protect an animal, how did he expect to save people? He was worthless. He should have followed what Kaken said. He should have jumped from the rooftop, expecting to have a quirk in the next life. Nobody responded to the boy's cries. Everyone was cheering for the hero who stopped the thieves. No one had noticed the boy except for said hero. The man ignored the people around him. He had his eyes wide open, looking at the boy meters away from him, crying for a cat. The hero gritted his teeth underneath his helmet and clenched his fists. I wasn't fast enough, the turbo hero ingenium scolded himself. He couldn't approach the boy either, he had nothing to say that could comfort the teenager. I'm sorry. That was everything he could say in his head. It was frustrating. He fulfilled his duty as a hero, but was he really a hero when he couldn't even comfort a kid? I'm home, Izuku Midoriya announced himself. Welcome home, Izuku. Inko Midoriya responded, approaching the door to see her son. Dinner is going to be ready. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw the looks of her son. "What happened to you?" she asked worriedly. Izuku's uniform was stained with dried blood, his hands were covered in dirt, while his nails bled a little. It was as if he had dug something with his bare hands. But what concerned her most were his eyes. They were red, which indicated that he had been crying a lot recently. They were also empty, devoid of light. If it wasn't because she heard his voice before, she would believe he was dead. "Sorry, Mom, I'm not. I don't have an appetite. I'm going to be in my room, I want to be alone for a while." The boy passed her mother on the way to his room, leaving Inko perplexed. It's not until the door of his room closed that she reacted again. "Izuku, tell me what happened." She pleaded on the door of his room, but he didn't answer. She could have entered his room, she knew the door wasn't locked, but decided to follow what her son told her. The green-haired mother sat on the sofa, turning on the TV, maybe that would help her ease her anxiety. On the news, a reporter was interviewing a hero. "Ingenium, what can you tell us about this case?" the reporter asked. "I'm sorry, there are things I want to think about. There's still a long road ahead to become a better hero." The hero's response impacted every reporter, he sounded depressed. Inside Izuku's room, the boy was on his bed in a fetal position, both of his hands were covering his eyes, trying his hardest to stop the tears that were falling from them. The boy was broken in so many ways that he didn't know what he was anymore. "Saw no Hiroyuki Cage." The young Izuku opened his eyes. The first thing he saw was blue like the sky. No, as a matter of fact, he was looking at the sky. He sat up and saw that he was on a cloud. "Am I dead?" the boy wondered out loud. He stood up and looked at his surroundings, without a doubt, it was the sky. He spotted something far beneath him, it was his city. "If you had a quirk, would you protect them?" A feminine, almost angelic voice echoed around him. "Even if I have to put my life on the line for them, yes." The boy answered calmly without taking his eyes from the city below, the words came out of his mouth naturally. "I see, so, do you want power?" the feminine voice asked again. "No," he responded. "Oh, why not?" the voice sounded curious. "What I want is the capability to protect them, power is just one of the means for it," Izuku answered. "Then, you want to be famous, right?" the questions continued. "I want to be recognized." His voice was almost like a whisper. "Is there a difference?" "Yes, I don't care if I'm admired, what I want is for people to feel safe when they see me," he confessed. "What about the money?" the voice continued. "What about the people?" he questioned this time. "Would you kill someone if you saw yourself in an unavoidable situation?" It sounded serious this time. "I'd like to save everyone, but even someone like me knows how foolish it would be to do something like that. I know the moral implications about killing, but like every hero is not entirely good, every villain is not entirely bad, so even killing is not completely bad. In some situations, death can be seen as an act of mercy or a necessary evil. The problem is that it's hard to discern the line." He finished. "Wow, deep, but you haven't answered my question," the voice said. "I would try to avoid that unavoidable situation," he answered. "And if you couldn't?" It pressed him even further. "I would try to find a way out of it. And if there isn't? I would delay it until someone else helps me, until someone else finds it. I don't have to be alone in this," he concluded. "Then if you knew your answer, what was all that stuff you said early for?" "I wanted to sound cool, I guess," he answered with a little smirk, and he knew the voice was smirking as well. "Have you lied to me?" "I don't think I could lie to you." "Will you smile for them?" "Yes." "Will you smile for me?" That was the last question. The teenager turned around with the brightest of smiles on his face, giving it to the woman that was behind him. The woman was smiling back at him. "I had the feeling it was Unico," Izuku said with a gentle look on his eyes. The woman was wearing a black dress that went down to her ankles, she was barefoot, actually, she was only wearing the dress. Her skin was like porcelain, her hair was black and long, falling to her waist from where a slender black tail came out. On top of her head, two black cat ears twitched ever so slightly. "Geez, couldn't you think of a better name?" she mocked him. I know his voice began to crack as tears started to overwhelm his eyes. "I'm sorry." He covered his eyes as his legs faltered, falling on his knees. She approached him, kneeling in front of him, embracing the fragile boy. "You were always a crybaby. I'm sorry, I couldn't protect you, I couldn't save you." He couldn't stop crying. "What are you saying?" Tears were now presented in her eyes. "You saved me so many times that I lost count. They stayed like that for what felt like an eternity." "What is this place? Where am I?" Izuku asked, already calm. "I call it your inner mind, I suppose," the woman replied. "Why am I here? How are you here?" Now he asked the questions. "Isn't that obvious? You're here because I want to give you a quirk," she said with a smile. "And I am here because I can. Remember the kiss I gave you?" He nodded. The lick on my lips. He pronounced. Yeah, she said with a blush. Oh, come on. You should feel happier about it, it was from a beauty like me. She started shouting when she didn't see a reaction from him. You were cat. He said. And so what? It's still 100 times better than eating a stupid strand of hair. She was really energetic. What? He asked, really confused. Never mind, the thing is that I'm going to give you a quirk, okay? She said a little exasperated. Okay, the boy smiled. What is it? Good. The quirk is called feline, it's not like the quirk cat, got it? Izuku nodded, reminding himself to write down everything later. This quirk will give you access to the capabilities of all the feline family, but even more awesome. Izuku couldn't help but look impressed. And that would be? He asked, really excited. Glad you asked, I'll give you some examples. First, the strength of a tiger, second, the speed of a cheetah, after that is the agility of a lynx, and that is just the beginning. You also have the bite of a jaguar. That sounds awesome. Izuku commented. She continues. The libido of a lion. She said. No, I don't think I need that one. He said deadpanned. That was one of the best. She muttered. Well, there's all the abilities that the feline family shares, you know, like climbing, and all that. There are other amazing abilities that I'm going to inhibit for the time being. She explained. Why? Izuku asked curiously. Because you're still not ready for them, of course. She scolded him. But I can give you a hint. She showed him a mischievous grin that would put the Cheshire Cat in shame. Think in every superstition there is about our family, our genealogical tree, and even mythology. He nodded. I don't quite get it, but everything sounds incredible. He said enthusiastically. Are there any drawbacks? He asked. Nico moved her hand to her chin, trying to think of anything. I guess that would have to be the primal instincts, so be careful with those laser pointers, balls of yarn, catnips, and all that. Oh, and watch out for those heat seasons. She said with her right index finger up. What? The green-haired boy screamed. That last one was the most alarming. I know you are not a female, but your powers are coming from me, so there's still a possibility. The problem is that I don't know when the first ones will start, it could be this year or in 5. So, be careful, because you're going to look more attractive to the opposite gender. She warned him. Izuku was covering his red face with his hands. So basically, he is a walking horny time bomb. Well, don't sweat it, Izuku. She continued. With training, everything is possible, and speaking of training, you will have to do a lot of it. This is not a free boost or anything, so if you really want to achieve the true potential of this quirk, you'll have to train hard. Understood? The boy nodded, showing a serious face. Oh, and by the way, there are some rules I want to state. Izuku gave her all his attention. I want you to grow some backbones, do you hear me? We, the feline family, are proud, and we don't tolerate anyone who thinks less of us, so, show some confidence, okay? It's really painful to watch you. The woman said with an exasperated expression. Ah, but I don't want you to become like that prick of your childhood friend. I encountered him once, and you know what he said to me out of the blue, as soon as he saw me. Izuku gave her a worried look. What are you looking at, dog face? He called me dog. Face. How am I a dog? Ag, I want to tear him apart right now. The feline woman was really steamed up about it. Beat, that's Kaken.The teenager said in his mind. So, any other thing you want to know? The black-haired woman asked now that she had calmed down. I would like to know about you, he said with a faint smile. I told you everything about myself. Now, I want to know you. She gave him a gentle smile and nodded. She sat down on the soft cloud, making herself more comfortable. Izuku did the same. Well, where do I start? She looked up, contemplating the blue sky. I was born in the Takoba Municipal Beach Park, but all the garbage there made it impossible to live. Her story was long. Izuku didn't know how much time he spent there, but he didn't care, he paid her all his attention. It was an enjoyable time. And now we're here. She smiled at him, finishing her story. Okay, I think that's all the time we have. She got up, noticing the sad expression on the boy's face. I'll see you later, Izuku. She smiled at him. Wait, later? His voice was one of total disbelief. Of course, you dummy. I will be living here from now on. I am your quirk after all. She beamed him a grin. Wait. Izuku exclaimed. Why are you giving me this quirk? He said in a melancholic way. True be told, if he had to choose between a quirk or that she was alive, he'd choose her without a second thought. What stupid questions you ask. A tender smile sprouted on her face. Because you can become a hero, Izuku. Those words immediately put tears in the boy's eyes. He grabbed his heart. I want everyone to see the great hero you are. He fell on his knees again, those words that he desired so much to hear were finally being pronounced. Because you are my hero, Boku no hero, he began to cry like a baby as the wind blew on his face. Everything around him was turning white. When you've done everything, I will be waiting for you here. Now, go save them, Izuku. The boy opened his eyes slowly, calmly. The first thing he saw was the ceiling of his room. He sat up, and the first thing he noticed was the dampness on his eyes as some tears fell from them. He moved his right hand to touch his eyes, but when he did, ouch. He whined, feeling that something pricked him. When he saw his hand, he found that his nails were really sharp and pointy. They were more like claws now, exactly like the ones Nico had when he saw her in his dream. Something behind him moved swiftly. When he turned his head, he found a black tail with green highlights, just like his hair. Izuku. What happened? A worried Inko burst in from the door. I heard you scream. She froze in place when she saw her son, or to be honest, his new physical changes. Sharp nails, a wagging tail, cat ears on his head that moved cutely, 2 marks like tattoos on both cheeks resembling cat whiskers, but overall, his eyes looked like 2 big emeralds, his eyes were bigger, and his pupils were narrow. The look of disbelief wasn't only on Inko's face, but on Izuku's too. The boy looked at his right hand again. It wasn't just a dream. He said in his mind, then suddenly, his claws extended out of nowhere, making him fall down off his bed with a scream. I can't believe you doubted me for a second. The same feminine voice rang inside his head with indignation. Very well, open wide. Izuku did as the doctor said, showing him the inside of his mouth. Whistle with these babies, you can be considered an apex predator for sure. He wasn't kidding, the boy's fangs were larger than normal and apparently very resistant. It was a mystery how they fitted in his maw. How do you feel about Midoriya-kun? Izuku traced his teeth with his tongue. It doesn't hurt or anything. It feels good, as always. The teenager was currently in the hospital with his mother. It has been 3 hours since he woke up with his new appearance. Naturally, the first course of action was to see a medic for a checkup. Okay, extend your right hand please. The doctor took it and then pressed the tips of his finger one by one, pulling out the boy's claws. Can you control them at will? Not yet, the green-haired boy shook his head. I don't know how they work. I would actually be concerned if you knew how to. This is how everyone feels for the first time when they develop their quirks, just give it some time. The apparently normal-looking doctor continues with his left hand. I assume it is the same with your tail. Like a response, the slender tail shows itself, refusing to stay still. And this might be the explanation of why you came barefoot. There was something that neither Izuku nor Inko noticed when he woke up. From his knees downwards, his feet shapeshifted for hind legs of a feline, the fur was the same as his hair, and when he put his shoes on to go to the doctor, claws coming from them ripped the shoes up like hot knives to butter. Yes, Izuku replied, scratching the back of his head a little embarrassed. Well, Midoriya-kun, sit here, please. The doctor patted a stretcher while a tentacle came from his back and grabbed a little reflex hammer. Do your legs feel weird by any means? He asked as his tentacle gave him the hammer. No, like my teeth, ears, and tail, they feel as if they've always been there. The boy explained, contemplating his new legs. Okay, the doctor swung the hammer lightly to get a response from his right leg, but didn't expect what happened next. In a matter of an instant, huge claws came from it as the boy kicked. The doctor proved to have great reflexes as he dodged, but his white coat got ripped. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I didn't mean to. Izuku began to shout worriedly, showing genuine concern for the doctor's well-being, but was interrupted by the hand of the man and a smile on his face. Don't worry, Midoriya-kun. Doctors like me that deal with quirks on a daily basis are used to this kind of situation. It was actually my fault, I should have been more careful about it. The doctor dismissed his worries with a smile. After checking the boy's reflexes, being very careful about it, the doctor went into more complex tests, taking around an hour. Very well, just one more thing, you just stay there, Midoriya-kun. The man stood up and began to close the windows to finally get next to the light switch. Close your eyes. The green-haired boy did as he was told. The doc turned the lights off, leaving the room in darkness. Now open them and look at where my voice is coming from. When Izuku opened his eyes, he thought for a moment that the lights were on, everything was still, as clear as day. Then he looked at the doctor. Wow, that's amazing and scary at the same time, said the grown-up man. He couldn't see anything except for 2 glowing emeralds in the darkness that stared at him. Can you see me, Midoriya-kun? Yes, I think I can see even better than before. The boy answered hesitantly. Read the letters in front of you, please. Midoriya read them easily, confirming what he just said. Thank you, now close your eyes again. The lights were on again. After that, the doctor called the boy's mother who was waiting outside, then went to his computer to finish everything. As expected of Inko, she was completely nervous and waiting for the words of the doctors were making it worse. The man finally finished with his computer and looked at them with a professional smile. There's no need to be worried, Miss Midoriya. Everything is in order. Of course, developing a quirk at this age has no precedence, however, I didn't find any anomalies in his body. Midoriya-kun is completely healthy, and if I do say so myself, he has an amazing quirk. When the doctor finished, Inko already had her hand covering her mouth with tears overwhelming her eyes. Izuku. She hugged her son tightly. I'm so happy. The boy chuckled seeing his mom's reaction. He didn't hug her back, he would never forgive himself if he hurt her just because he couldn't control his body, so he was being extra careful around her and anyone else. The doctor coughed into his hand gaining both green hair's attention. Even though nothing is wrong, I'll recommend that Midoriya-kun take a few days off of school for him to get acclimated to his new quirk. What the doctor said made complete sense to them. I already called the school today informing that Izuku wouldn't assist, Inko informed the doctor. Great, now just let me write the excuse. After finishing the sick note, he handed it to the small woman. Oh, and don't cook anything too hot, I didn't check it, but he probably has a literal cat tongue now. The doctor tapped his own tongue to make an emphasis. Both green heads bowed from the waist and headed home. Meanwhile in Midoriya's school. Izuku Midoriya. The teacher called the next name on the list. Right, he's not coming today. The man said to himself after remembering what he was told earlier. Hey Kaken. A student whispered, trying to gain Bakugo's attention and succeed. Do you think we went too far yesterday with him? The fuck I care. That's what he gains for being in my way, that damned nerd. Katsuki almost yelled, his eyes fell on the empty chair of the green-haired boy. A frown appeared on his face, thinking that Deku only made his blood boil. A few hours had passed since Izuku returned from the doctor, he was now in his room trying his best to control his claws. He was currently holding his left hand in front of him staring at it really intensely. Then suddenly his claws extended but were the one from his right leg. He let out a sigh, seeing how his new attempt ended in failure again, yet, like if that wasn't enough his own tail smacked the back of his head, making his frustration even greater. Sigh, this is impossible, does anyone with a new quirk have to go through this? He rambles in his head. Well, what do you expect if you're doing everything wrong from the start? Nico's voice echoed in his head. But I don't even know where to start, can you give me a hand? A paw. He wasn't surprised at all from hearing her voice, he already knew she could do it and was happy about it. I learned that if I give you the answer it won't help you at all, so it's a no. Izuku grew a little with her answer, but then stayed quiet. Naya. It's something in your mind, Izuku, she asked inquisitively. I'm a little afraid. I still remember the incident with the doctor, it could have ended pretty bad. What if next time I hurt someone? It could be my own mother. I could never forgive myself if that happened. The boy stated. And that's why I gave this power to you, I knew you could handle it, and you just showed me I was right if you're that concerned about it. Thanks. Izuku smiled at his companion's words of thrust. I can give you a hint if you want. This immediately caught the teen's attention. You're thinking like if this quirk was some kind of power. The feline said with an amused smirk. What's that supposed to mean? Quirks are powers, right? The answer to Midoriya's questions was a giggle. Your hint only managed to confuse me more. Izuku, lunch is ready. The voice of his mother took him out of his thoughts. The boy decided to stop worrying for the moment, he would think better with his stomach filled. He got a pleasant surprise finding that his mother made katsudon, his favorite. I thought in making your favorite to celebrate that you awaken your quirk, Inko said with a smile on her face. Midoriya wanted to hug her, but the fear of harming her held him back, so he only returned the smile and sat down to start to eat. Inko put the news on the TV before sitting down with her son, it was most likely they were about heroes, something that fascinates Izuku. While Izuku was watching the TV, he picked a piece of pork with his chopsticks, but without any warning, the claws from his hand extended, not only causing an injury in his own hand, but he swallowed the piece of pork whole, choking him. Oh my god! Inko exclaimed, jumping out of her chair. Running to the kitchen for a glass of water. She came back seconds later. Drink it. With no delay, the young man drank the water, finally being able to breathe again. Are you okay, Izuku? His mother asked, completely worried. And yup, and thanks, mom. He responded while catching his breath. How do you feel? Nico's voice echoed in his head, she was worried too. Good, but that was awful. It's really scary when you can't breathe. Izuku stopped mid-sentence while his eyes opened wide in realization. Mom, I'm going to my room, I want to try something. The greenhead jumped out of his seat. The little woman was searching for the medkit to treat her son when she heard him. Hey, Izuku, but your hand. She tried to rebut, however her son was already in front of the door of his room. Don't worry, it's not that bad, Midoriya said, disappearing behind it. He sat on his bed and crossed his legs, closed his eyes, and began to breathe. Inside of his mind he was sure he saw Nico grin mischievously. Minutes passed until he finally opened his eyes. The boy moved his right bleeding hand in front of him, with a swift sound, his claws expanded just as he intended, they retracted just as easily, his eyes went to his left hand, only to do the same. Izuku got up from his bed and looked at his new feline legs, they both showed those terrifying claws from the morning, only to hide a second after. He went back to his right hand, with a smile. This time he only extended the claws on 3 fingers, then on 2, and then on 1, he did the same with his other limbs, after that he just looked over his shoulder, and his tail made a heart shape, his ears moved to pick different sound, Izuku could control his quirk perfectly. How did you make it, Izuku? That was a rhetoric question from his partner, she already knew his answer. You were right, this is not some kind of power. Nevertheless, the boy began with his answer. This is my body now. I was thinking that I should activate it in some way, but there was never something to activate, to begin with. Elaborate for me, please. Nico wanted more. I never think about moving my hands, they just do it. No one is conscious of their legs when they walk, they just move. My new ears, tail, and claws are the same, they're part of my body, using them should be as easy as. He paused, trying not to chuckle. As what? Using them should be as easy as breathing. He finished with a smile. You should clean your hand, to start what comes next. Her voice sounded endearing, proud of him. He went out of his room to inform his mother of his progress, needless to say, she hugged him hard about how happy she was. After getting some bandages on his hand he went back to his room, sat in front of his desk, and began to write a plan to train his quirk. Dinner was already over, and Izuku was on the sofa sleeping. His head was resting on his mother's lap. They enjoyed this kind of moment. For Inko it was almost like if she had a real cat on her lap, and the occasional purr coming from her son didn't help with that, nor with her heart that was at the point of melting of how cute her son acted. She had to stop often to regain her composure. But the life of a mother is busy, so she had to leave him to do the chores, which wasn't an easy task because she didn't want to leave him. Inko finally managed to get up without waking Izuku up. Okay, first is laundry. Now deciding what she should begin with, she went to her son's room to pick his clothes. When she entered the room, Inko noticed something that stopped her completely. The decoration was different. There was only one figurine and one poster of All Might. The mother was sure that this morning when she entered to check on her son, all the merchandise of the #1 hero was there. Then, what happened? This sudden change was something that came with his quirk or was something else. Her attention switched to the notebook on the desk. The notebook was open so she was able to read what was inside. The title read Training Routine to Become a Hero. There wasn't much on it, apparently it was difficult to come up with a good routine for Izuku, yet there was something that caught her attention. When she read it, she smiled, thinking that she at least was going to help her son with that. It was 6 in the morning of the next day, but Izuku Midoriya was already awake, outside of his apartment complex. He was wearing a green tracksuit and green track pants with no shoes, he was barefoot because anything would get in his way. The boy was stretching his limbs, preparing to test his quirk for the first time. Okay, now that that's done, let's start with something simple. To any bystander they would see a boy talking to himself, but in reality, he was talking to the partner that was linked to him for life. Yeah. I was looking forward to this, she cheerfully exclaimed. How about a jump, the feline suggested. In response, the green hair crouched, taking his position to give the biggest jump until now. Whoa. The boy cried when he realized he was 4 meters in the air. Not expecting that, he lost his balance in mid-air, he was now falling headfirst, yet when he reached the ground, the first thing that touched it was his legs. His eyes were wide open in astonishment. How did I land on my legs? It wasn't only that, he didn't feel any pain after falling from such height. Those are your instincts, Izuku Nico answered with a calm voice. After all, cats always land on their feet. It's called the riding reflex. I won't go into much detail, the only thing you should know is that if you fall from a place really high, there is nothing that will prevent your body from taking damage. The boy nodded, he won't forget the warning. Okay, how about the speed this time? Izuku said to no one in particular. The finish line is 2 kilometers away from here. He adopted his position, ready to run. Nico, on the other hand, was puzzled because she didn't know where the boy was going, it wasn't written on the training routine. 3, 2, 1 go. When he finished the countdown, the greenhead bolted. In just a matter of seconds, he broke his best mark. Midoriya was excited, with such speed he was going to arrive at his destination in no time. A few inches later. Cough cough, Izuku was covering his mouth with both hands, trying not to throw up. He wasn't even close to the 2 kilometers mark. He just surpassed the first kilometer and was about to collapse, his endurance was bad, as always if not worse. Cough cough, I'm going to die, Midoriya said, lying on the sidewalk trying to catch some air. Inside his head, Nico was on the floor, she too was trying to catch some air, but because she was dying of laughter. Not funny. Izuku said, trying to stop her. What happened? He asked. Izuku, you know I love you, but that was really stupid. She wasn't going to stop anytime soon. Some minutes passed. Are you done? The boy's voice sounded tired of hearing her laughter. If you wait almost there we's okay, I'm done. She sounded like she finally calmed down. To tell you what happened, listen, cheetahs have really bad endurance, they cannot run for too long, but you are lucky, because of the other felines, you can actually improve your stamina, you'll just have to train harder. Understood. Was the only thing that came out of Izuku's mouth. He got up and began to jog at a more normal pace. Why are we here? Izuku the cat's voice sounded surprised. They have finally arrived at Takoba Municipal Beach Park. Izuku had a peaceful smile. I thought cleaning this place would be a good workout. He answered, his voice sounds like a whisper, soothing her. There's no need for that. Pronouncing those words made her sad. There are better ways to train your body. I want to see it, Izuku said. The ocean, she inquired. Your smile. He clarified. This was the place where you were born. I don't like it that your only memory of this place is all the garbage and junk here. Besides, if I don't do it, who will? Nico was smiling tenderly. Also, I learned something about being a hero. What is it? Smile. More important than defeating villains, heroes are the example to society. The feline was impressed. When did he mature so much? But, as the answer hit her, her face saddened. It was her death. The event hit him harder than she realized, it robbed him of his innocence, and there wasn't a way to go back. That was the reason why he took the All Might merchandise off his room. He no longer followed blindly a figure of a hero, he was creating his own version of what a hero should be. Though I'm no hero, I'm going to show them how to take care of a beach. Finished the boy with a grin after diving in all the junk. The new strength of Izuku Midoriya was something that amazed him. He was able to lift things that no normal person should, but there was other stuff which he couldn't move no matter what he tried. To say it briefly, he was stronger, but by no means was it enough to be a hero. He stopped around 12, the sun was at its peak, meaning it was lunchtime. The boy jogged back to his home, but not before he vowed to clean the beach before the 10 months to take the entrance exam to UA. When Izuku arrived at his home, he was surprised that his mother wasn't home. He didn't think much of it, though. She probably was buying the groceries. Yet it puts a smile on his face to find his lunch in the microwave, she always thinks of him first. After a great meal, he went to his room to begin with basic exercises like push-ups, sit-ups, and anything else he could do in his home. Around 7 p.m. his mother finally arrived, and like any good son, he went to welcome her. She was really surprised to see the state of her son, he was soaked wet in sweat. Izuku, you should take a bath right now, you stink really bad. Said Inko while pinching her nose with a cringe on her face. Oh yeah, sorry, mom. The boy went to the bathroom to do just that, as his mother said. He probably stunk that bad for spending hours cleaning the beach. He was really tired as well, so a bath was just what he needed. It was good that the jaguar part in his quirk let him enjoy the water. After a relaxing bath, Izuku was now eating dinner with his mom. Izuku. The voice of his mother made him stop, leaving him with an open mouth and food midway to it. Yesterday I saw your notebook with a training routine and I thought I could help you with something written there. That's why I went out today. This new information astonished the teen. You didn't have to. He stopped, thinking it wouldn't be fair. His mother took her time to help him out with something, the best he could do was accept it with a smile. Thanks, mom, what was it? I signed you up at a gym. Izuku was flabbergasted. You're starting tomorrow. She said with a pleased smile. The boy put his chopsticks down and got up from his seat. Izuku. This reaction startled the little woman. He approached her without any words and hugged tightly. You didn't have to, but thank you so much, mom. She returned the hug with a bright smile. Inko knew something had happened, her son wasn't the same anymore, something had changed her son deep in his core, and that made her sad for some reason. She could only hope that whatever hurt her precious Izuku would heal over time. It was the next day in the morning. A scrawny-looking man with blonde hair was walking in the direction of Takoba Municipal Beach Park. The name of this man was Toshinori Yagi, but he was commonly known as All Might, the #1 hero, and the symbol of peace. He was on his way to the beach with the intention to clean it, it would probably take him 3 days to leave it like new. After all, no one has bothered to do it, so he would take the task on his shoulders. However, what he never would have expected was that someone else was already there doing what he intended to. When he arrived, he saw someone climbing the stairs with a really big and heavy refrigerator. And by the looks of it, it was a difficult task for the person in question. Izuku Midoriya finally left the big piece of junk on the floor, releasing a tired sigh. That kid is what Toshinori thought when he saw the green-haired boy. Izuku raised his head to look at a specific place. Something wrong, Izuku, the voice of his partner echoed in his head. I thought I saw someone standing there. He pointed to the empty sideway, there were only bushes and some trees. After some seconds staring at it, he shrugged off and went back to the beach. Behind the trees was Toshinori sweating like a madman, hoping the kid hadn't seen him. He recognized that kid, even with all those physical changes. After that day, he gave it a thought to what the kid said, and the blonde regretted what his answer was. He could only imagine how much his words hurt the boy. Yagi was also curious about the quirk the boy was showing. He remembered correctly that the boy was quirkless, but he couldn't allow himself to go there and ask him directly, the shame he felt was too great for that. "Aha, I guess I do not need it here," the man said to no one awkwardly while rubbing the back of his head. With that said, he walked away with a sad smile on his face. Some minutes passed when Izuku looked back at the sidewalk. The wind was blowing in that direction, moving the leaves of the trees. Words came out of his mouth like whispers to the wind. "I don't hate you." He didn't know why he said that or why those specific words came out of him. It was as if he said them hoping that someone who needs them heard them. It was a melancholic feeling floating in the air. Meanwhile in Izuku's school. "Oops, I almost called Midoriya again." The teacher chuckled at his own antics. This was the third day that Midoriya hadn't attended school. "Sensei, why hasn't Midoriya come to school lately?" A female student asked. It wasn't out of concern, everyone just wanted to laugh at him more and make fun of him for aiming at UA high. During the 3 days, Katsuki Bakugo's irritation grew even more and snapped at whoever talked to him. "Oh, you guys don't know?" The teacher questioned them, leaving his students more curious about it. Should they know about the reason? Well, apparently Midoriya-kun awakened his quirk. So, he took some days off. The entire classroom went silent, no one dared to say a word. "Could you repeat that, sensei?" "I don't think I heard you correctly," a male student asked nervously. "What?" "That Midoriya awakened his quirk. His mother called the school yesterday to inform us about it," said the man puzzled. The shout of all the students was heard in the whole school. The gossip in the classroom was immediate. "What? Midoriya with a quirk? There has to be a mistake," a girl said to her friends while having a smirk on her face. "It has to be something really weak, so he didn't notice until now," a boy commented, already making fun of the greenhead. Boom. An explosion quieted the room and all the attention went to the ash blonde boy. "Deku with a quirk, don't fuck with me." Quirks are supposed to be presented until the age of 4. If Deku has a quirk, he has to be faking it. The loud voice of Bakugo boomed the class. "I don't think you can fake a mutant type, Bakugo-kun," the teacher said lazily while picking his right ear because of all the loud noise. Everything went quiet again. "And if the medical exam is accurate, he has a really strong quirk, maybe even stronger than your Bakugo." This time the teacher had the biggest smirk of his life on his face. He knew how everyone treated the boy, but he never was able to help him. He also knew how obnoxious Katsuki's ego was, so this was the most pleasant moment in all the year he's been teaching. The astonishment and disbelief on the blonde's face was priceless. "Well, regardless of the questions you have about it, you can ask him tomorrow when Midoriya comes back." The teacher finished with an innocent smile. It was 2 p.m, Midoriya was in the city with a worried look, looking at a paper in his hand. He was in front of the gym, her mother singing him up. The building was in an alley where not even a single person dared to walk. The structure of the gym looked as if it could collapse at any moment. "Oh, this place looks nice, your mom made a good discovery." The cat's voice inside his head sounded excited. If she said that, then it meant one thing, she saw something he didn't. Well, he couldn't stay outside any longer, so he decided to walk in. "Hello?" Midoriya greeted nervously, but no one answered. He continued walking, inspecting every machine on his way to the changing room. There were some machines he didn't even know. Overall, everything inside looked better than any other gym he has seen, all was in perfect conditions. The place was empty, so he could use whatever he wanted. He now knew what Nico meant early. After changing into more comfortable clothes, he went to a machine that caught his attention early. He spent some time inspecting it to figure out how to use it. "I don't recommend that one for a beginner, kid," Izuku screamed after hearing a man's voice behind his back. It scared him so bad that he ended up jumping, nailing his claws at the ceiling like a cat. His quirk really has changed him. "Oh, nice reflexes you have there," the man said, impressed. The boy finally saw the man. It was a very tall, muscular man of a wide build with slightly tanned skin. He had a square jaw which juts out a notable amount, small eyes, and short white spiked hair. The man was wearing a white t-shirt and dark blue track pants with black sports shoes. Izuku got down easily thanks to his riding reflex. Sorry about that, you caught me by surprise," said the boy. "Yeah, my bad, I just wanted to give you a few tips. You're new, right?" The man was friendly, which Midoriya was grateful for. "Yes, I'm starting today, and I don't know where to begin," the greenhead answered with a smile. "Oh? Then how about I help you with that?" I know how to use every machine here. The muscular man proposed with a smirk. No, I don't want to be a burden. But the boy nervously declined to move his hand. Hey, don't worry about it. I only come here to keep my build, besides, the manager and I are the only ones who ever come here, so seeing a new face is nice every once in a while. The white head replied with a smile. I'm most of the time here when I'm not working, so helping you out would keep my mind occupied. Izuku couldn't say no to him when he put it like that. Okay, thank you very much, sir. He inquired about the man's name. I don't like my name that much, so just call me sir. The man said a little bit ashamed and was waiting to hear the boy's name. Izuku Midoriya, sir. He replied with a smile. They both spent the afternoon at the gym. The man explained to Izuku how every machine worked, what muscles were used in every exercise, and how to make the best of all of them. They practically already have a routine to follow. When the clock hit 6, it was time to end. They both meet outside of the gym. Sir? Midoriya called the man. Yes, Midoriya. They were like friends already. There's been something in my mind for quite a while. The man just waited for the young man to continue. Have I seen you before? Izuku asked, tilting his head. Ah, so I was right, you didn't recognize me at all. The man laughed, finding it funny for some reason. Well, you're a good kid, so I don't think there's any harm in telling you. The man said with a smirk, then pointed at himself with his thumb. I'm the pro hero Death Arms. Asked the pro hero Death Arms. Izuku freaked out. Death Arms, the hero who the boy began to mumble everything he knew about the pro, which made the man in question more and more unsettled. Hey, Midoriya, oh, Midoriya. The man finally shouted to bring the boy back to earth. I'm right here. The green head snapped out of it and realized his mistake. So sorry, I'm a big fan of yours, and well, I've always wanted to be a hero, so I guess I got too excited about it. He said apologetically. Don't worry about it. Death Arms said with a smile. He guessed that anyone would have that reaction if someone who a few moments ago was your training buddy ended up being someone you admire. So, you want to be a hero? Izuku nodded shyly. That's awesome, you would be a great hero. Those words made the boy really happy. Then which high school are you going to apply to? The UA Midoriya said nervously. He was afraid the pro was going to laugh at him for aiming so high. Oh. Then you'll have to train harder, though. I'll help you with that. The pro beamed at him. Izuku began to laugh. He didn't know why. The only thing he was certain was that he felt a great relief. Thanks, Death Arms. Unknown to Izuku, Death Arms noticed some tears falling from the boy's eyes. Hey, how about we go to eat some ice cream? It's my treat. The hero proposed while patting the boy's back. With a nod from Midoriya, they went into the city, talking and laughing. From that day, they began a friendship. At last, the day to go back to school came, but I'm late. Izuku's mind was in overdrive. It wasn't that he woke up late, in fact, he woke up earlier than ever to go and clean the beach before school, but his timing was wrong and ended up spending more time on the beach than he intended to. And now he was running to school as faster as his new quirk allowed him to. Now he was in front of the door of his classroom. He had barely made it in time, but because of his endurance, he was crawling and was at the point of throwing up. Now I'm seriously going to die, he yelled in his head. And of course, Nico was laughing her ass off. After finally catching his breath, he opened the door and walked in, forgetting about his new appearance. But just a few steps in, he stopped, feeling something off. Everything was too quiet. His head moved robotically at the direction of his classmates. Every single one of the students was looking at him. All the eyes were wide open in astonishment. Being the center of attention was something new for him, so his mind went blank, leaving him with a single word that came out of his mouth, breaking the silence. Naya. Inside of his mind, he punched himself so hard after hearing what he said that he probably killed himself. Such loud noise hurt his ears. He was so afraid, he almost merged with the blackboard at his back. The teacher wasn't there yet, so everyone did whatever they wanted. You're lying, he's so cute. A girl almost squeaked, saying that to her friends. All the girls were probably thinking the same. Wait, what? He looks so awesome. A guy commented. I know. What the fuck? He looks more badass than me. Not fair. Another boy replied, cursing his quirk. Boom. Deku. After yelling the nickname, Bakugo went literally flying from his seat to the greenhead's position with explosions to move faster. The blonde readied his right backward to blow Midoriya's face when he reached him. Izuku saw that, frozen in place. Izuku, move, Nico's voice yelled, bringing him to reality. She wasn't going to allow Bakugo to hurt Izuku ever again. Boom. Smoke came from the blackboard. Everyone in the classroom had their mouths hanging in surprise, even Bakugo. In less than a second, Izuku not only moved his head out of the way, he grabbed Kitsuki's wrist, moving his hand away to not get even remotely close to the explosion. You bastard. Kitsuki recovered quickly and raised his lift fist, swinging it at Izuku's face. But with ease, the catboy caught it with his other hand, surprising everyone again. Bakugo tried to free himself to no avail. The grip on his hands was adamant. With rage boiling in his system, Kitsuki looked at Izuku with murderous intent. Midoriya's face was calm, impassive. Yet his eyes, those emerald orbs, denoted disappointment. "Who do you think you are, you little fuck?" the blonde yelled in his head. "You think because you have a quirk now that you're better than me?" He began to try to free himself more desperately. Izuku moved his childhood friend's arms, as if they weren't putting any resistance, lowering them. Bakugo had enough, he was about to blow up the entire classroom if necessary. Akin Izuku's voice stopped him, it sounded calm, being loud enough for the whole classroom to hear it. "We're not allowed to use our quirks at school." "Who cares?" the explosive boy shouted. "It's clear that you don't, even though you're the one who should be more careful than anyone else." His words confused everyone in the class. Kurigane Kune-boy in the middle of the room flinched at the mention of his family name. Now all the attention was on him, an extra. "I'll accompany you to the infirmary." The boy's eyes widened in astonishment. Thanks, Midoriya." The boy stood up from his seat. That was when all the other students saw a nasty burn on his left forearm, the sleeve of his uniform had been long gone. Everyone began to gossip about it. The boy was trying to hide it since he was hit from one of the explosions that Kitsuki used to fly to Midoriya, and the first one to notice was the one who was further away. That was when Bakugo understood. The disappointment in Midoriya's eyes wasn't because he had a better quirk, but because he hurt someone. In a swift move, Izuku was now at the door with Kurigane. Leaving Kitsuki shocked, the blonde never saw when Midoriya released his hand and walked to the door. "Don't worry, I'm sure the nurse has something for that," said the green hair with a reassuring smile while putting his hand on the other boy's shoulder. The boy smiled back nervously, not because of his injury, but for the new Midoriya at his side. After the morning incident, the rest of the day continues like normal. Everyone glanced once in a while at the feline boy just to see his normal behavior. Kitsuki was of course sent to detention for his actions. When school was over, Izuku went immediately to the gym to train. And during the night he went again to Takoba Beach to compensate for the time in school. That became his new routine. Bakugo, surprisingly, never picked up Izuku again, leaving him alone. A month had passed since Izuku got his new quirk. He was currently at the gym, training some more. "Say, Midoriya," Death Arms called to a boy who just finished with a machine. Some days the pro hero wasn't in the gym to help him, but it was understandable due to his job. Today was a lucky day where the big man was there to help him train. "What kind of hero do you want to be?" the hero asked while handing some water to the boy. "What do you mean, sir?" Izuku said, confused. "Well, a hero who saves people with a smile, of course," he responded, figuring that was the answer. "I was talking about heroes who only do rescue missions or those who only fight villains," Death Arms clarified. "But I guess your answer is to be expected. These days everyone admires All Might." Those words hit a nerve within Izuku. "No, I don't want to." He didn't know what to say. He wasn't basing his answer on All Might, it was different, however, he couldn't express that in words. What kind of hero do he want to become? He didn't know, and that answer scared him the most. "Don't worry, Midoriya. There's nothing to be embarrassed about liking the number one hero." Death Arm mistook his stuttering with embarrassment. It was evening, and Midoriya was on the sofa of his home. He took a rest from cleaning the beach today. He didn't have the mind for it anyways. The question Death Arms asked him early was still in his mind. What kind of hero do he want to be? Why couldn't he come up with a better answer than the one he gave to the pro hero? The boy decided to clear his mind, and what was better than watching a show about heroes on the TV? The show was about a certain hero who never appeared on social media. Hero name: Eraserhead. They talked about his feats as a hero, about his quirk and his abilities. That was when Izuku's eyes grew wide in realization. The boy went to his memory to remember everything he knew about one person, Katsuki Bakugo. After he remembered what he wanted, he reached for his phone. Midoriya began to text Death Arms. They exchanged numbers some time ago, so he was able to ask whatever doubt he had about his training. "Izuku." "Death Arms, I have a question." Death Arms: "Ah, Midoriya. I'm on my break, so, sure, ask anything." "Izuku, since when did you start training your body?" Death Arms: Well, I guess since I was a little kid, around when I got my quirk." "Is that all you wanted to ask?" Izuku: "Yeah. Thanks." By the time Izuku finished messaging, he was covering his eyes with his forearm, the same hand that holds his phone. He was gritting his teeth, his other hand was clenched into a fist out of frustration. That night Midoriya went back into his inner mind. It wasn't his second time, he came here often to spend some time with Nico. Today, though, he was sitting in one of the clouds, looking at the city below. Is there something wrong, Izuku? Nico asked, worried. She didn't know what was happening with the boy. I think I don't deserve this quirk. Her eyes grew in horror. No, that came out wrong. I think I don't deserve any quirk. Every alarm in the feline's mind went off. What the fuck happened to him to say that? The sun rose from the horizon and its light began to touch a certain catboy's face. His eyes opened slowly, his look was calm, peaceful. The day was Saturday, so he didn't have school today. Thanks, Nico, for hearing me out. Izuku said in his mind. Yeah, well. You scared the shit out of me with what you said. Sorry, it was a hasty decision. He apologized. Don't mention it. But are you sure about this? She sounded worried. Yeah, you're my hero. The boy replied with a smile. Boy, don't say that lightly. She scolded him. Izuku tilted his head and thought in those words she just said. He began to laugh out loud like a madman, which startled the cat inside of him. What's so funny? She asked nervously. You really are my hero. He didn't say that just for the sake of saying it. He was relieved because she just gave him the answer to Death Arm's question. It was already afternoon and Izuku was at the gym as always, but something was different. Hey, Midoriya, you can stop now. Say the pro hero worried for the kid in front of him. It was just the first machine, but the kid had surpassed his own limit long ago. Now, his form was atrocious and his arms trembled uncontrollably. It wasn't until he no longer could do the exercise by any means that the kid stopped. He got up and went for the next. It was like seeing a zombie. Death Arms didn't know what had happened. Midoriya had never pushed himself so much since he met him a month ago. It hurt the man a little seeing the boy pushing himself until the very limit, until the point of breaking. Midoriya. I know I said that you had to train hard for UA, but this is absurd. Why are you doing this? The man asked, genuinely worried. I caught up. The pro couldn't hear, but just a few words. What did you say? He asked again, getting closer to hear him better. I have 11 years of doing nothing to catch up. His voice sounded painful, and the look of his face was even more. Izuku was in pure pain. This astonished the pro hero. Izuku Midoriya had made up his mind. For 11 years he didn't do anything to make his dream of becoming a hero a reality. He just waited, he was waiting for a miracle. It was like his dream was more of a wish. He couldn't believe how stupid he was. Having a quirk or being quirkless, all of that, it didn't matter. He never worked hard for his dream. How could someone like that be gifted with an amazing quirk like the feline? It was unacceptable. And even when Nico literally slapped him to put some sense in his mind, saying he still had time, he could not allow it. He only would grant it if he paid by going through hell. He will break his own body if necessary. That evening when he arrived home, his entire body was trembling in pain. In his bed he screamed without any voice that came from his mouth. He didn't sleep that night, nor he was going to in the next ones. Like if that wasn't enough, he began to exercise at school with grippers. But he found something that made him rethink his ordeal. If you train every day to the point of collapsing without leaving your muscles to rest, you're going to end up damaging the muscle instead of making it stronger, so he decided that he would take 2 days of the week to rest. It's been 3 months since he got his quirk and 2 months since he started his inhuman routine. Today was one of those days when he rested from his exercises. And even though he was supposed to relax, he was often found jogging through the city. His resistance has improved a lot. The day was no exception. Izuku relaxed today. Nico's voice sounded tired and she was tired just by looking at Midoriya. FUU, I guess you're right. He stopped at a park, cleaning the sweat out of his forehead. The green leaves and the blowing wind were enticing, so he walked aimlessly. He finally came across a clearing. It was a small one, probably only 2 people fit there, but apparently no one had noticed it, perfect for him to rest just a little before continuing. Izuku laid down on the grass. The wind was fantastic, it was like a gentle embrace, also the smell of fresh grass, and the sound of nature was too much for him. This is bad. It feels too good. With his tired body, there wasn't a possibility for him to not fall asleep. 30 minutes later, the bushes began to rustle. From them, a girl came out. The girl was wearing a plain and modest-looking dress. The skirt went down to her ankles just to meet high brown boots. The most extraordinary feature was her hair. It was green thorn-covered vines, probably the manifestation of her quirk. She was carrying a paper bag with bread in it. The girl was going to eat it in her favorite and secret place, but was surprised to find someone already there. It was a boy with cat features on his body. She was shocked that someone had found her secret place, of course, but seeing how he was sleeping soundly, she didn't dare to wake him up. The girl, whose name was Abara Shiozaki, after thinking a little on what to do, decided to sit down next to the sleeping boy and began to eat her bread with a smile. Having an unexpected but not unwelcome company was nice. After all, the boy didn't look like a bad person. The bar was even tempted to pet the stranger because, before her eyes, he looked like a stray kitten, a cute and helpless kitten. She noticed something when she stared at his face for quite some time. He was tired. Not only physically tired, but mentally and spiritually tired too. The girl could only deduct that the boy had gone through a bad experience that scarred him. It made her sad a little bit. Then she did the only thing she could at that moment. She prayed. She put her hands together and prayed for the boy who she met just 15 minutes ago, hoping for the better. Izuku's eyes opened slowly as he sat up. The boy began to rub the sleep out of his eyes. That, without a doubt, was the best nap he had ever taken. This would be one of his favorite places to rest from now on. It had great weather and no one would go there to bother him. It was perfect. Hey, Izuku. Nico's voice caught his attention. What's that on your head? That was a strange question. Did he have some leaves stuck in his hair? When he reached his forehead, he felt something pointy. With care, he took the thing off. It was a thorny vine covered with flowers. It was a crown of flowers. This awakened him completely. Someone else was there with him when he was asleep. His head moved in all directions trying to spot said person to no avail. Whoever this person was, they'd been long gone. His eyes fell upon the crown once more. He was sure the person who made it didn't have bad intentions, making a smile sprout on his face. Izuku sniffed the crown a little. It smells really good. More than the fragrance of the flowers, it was the scent of the vine that smelled nicer than anything else. Just a few shots and the aroma relaxed the boy immensely. Midoriya continued with his jog. He kept the crown, which hung in his belt. Now it has become his lucky charm. The flowers were going to probably fade. The thorny vine, however, looked like it was going to last longer. At the end of his jog, Izuku arrived at his destination. Musatafu's library. The teen came here often whenever he had time. Most of the time he was found reading books about psychology or philosophy. He started reading these kinds of books after he got his answer to the deaf arms question. Now inside the library, Izuku was contemplating the shelves about these topics. What should I read today? He wondered out loud in a quiet tone. After all, it was the basic rule in a library. It wasn't until something or someone hit his back and heard multiple books fall on the floor that he was brought back to reality. When he looked behind, he found a girl on the floor surrounded by a ton of books. "Oh, are you okay?" Midoriya asked worriedly as he stretched his hand out to help her. Which she took thankfully. The girl was wearing a plain black tank top and baggy cargo pants and a jacket tied casually around her waist. She had quite a mature build, although she was probably the same age as Midoriya. She had salmon pink hair, which was styled into thick dreadlocks, but something that caught the boy's attention was her eyes. Her eyes were yellow with a cross in the center, making them look somewhat like scope lenses. "Thanks. I didn't see you there," the girl said cheerfully. Why yeah, don't worry about it." He was a little bit nervous. This was his second time talking to a girl, even though he's been boosting his confidence thanks to the exercise and Nico, he still had work to do in that department. "Oh, hey, let me help you with this." Izuku crouched to begin to pick the books up. The girl remained there with her eyes fixated on the cat looking at the boy's back. Said Midoriya in his mind when he saw the books. Engineering. Thermodynamics. Physics. DOD-DAMN. The voice of Nico sounded impressive. The irony of those two words almost made Midoriya break into laughter right there. Yeah, it was really impressive that someone of his age was able to comprehend such complicated things as these. Although, this made a question pop up in his head. How did she end up behind him when the section for these books is at the other side of the library? Then he felt something touching his back that sent shivers up his spine. There were two, very soft, mounds on his back, yet like if that wasn't enough, two hands came from underneath his arms and began to touch every single section of his torso. His neck almost cracked when he moved his head to look at his back. There he found the girl, and he could identify the two mounds on his back. It was her breast. If his face wasn't already as red as a tomato, then now sure it was. "She's a pervert. She is a pervert," he screamed in his mind. Now, Izuku. Nico's tone was calm, almost enjoying his reaction. "Don't be a pussy now and enjoy the trip." Her sarcasm was like a punch to the guts. "Oh. What a nice build you have. You must train a lot." The girl sounded as if she didn't think she was doing something wrong. After some seconds, she ceased the touching, giving the boy some space. For a second Midoriya felt that his back was empty, but he knocked that sentiment out of his mind. He must remain pure. I have a favor to ask you." The girl sounded excited. "What is it?" To Izuku, she didn't look like a bad person or that she had ill intentions. "Would you be the father of my babies?" Izuku screamed, although his hands moved unconsciously to cover his mouth. He was still in the library. His face, of course, went to a new scale of red. A few inches of explanation later. Izuku was hyperventilating, the shock hasn't left him yet, even after understanding what she meant by babies. So, would you be my test subject? Her smile was blinding. The green head sighed exasperatedly. Why him? They only met 10 minutes ago. Well, he knew she had been looking for someone who can take a punch, but still, this was too out of the blue. Nico, of course, was almost dying of laughter inside his head. He raised his head, ready to decline, however, her bright smile and eyes full of expectation stopped him right in his tracks. Then suddenly, the kind of hero he wanted to become came to his mind, and with that, his answer was set in stone, and probably his fate. He smiled tenderly at her and said, "Very well, I will be your test subject." Her face showed such happiness that Izuku feared she would faint there. "Yeah." She shot her hands upwards and shouted. Midoriya was quick to react and covered her mouth, but like if she didn't notice, she continued to shout into them, letting out only mumbles. When she finally calmed down, he took his hands off. "I'm Mei Hatsume, but because we're colleagues you can call me Mei." "Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Izuku then." The boy introduced himself. "I'm bad with names, so Izu will do," she said enthusiastically with a thumbs up. Midoriya let out another tired sigh, he figured he would be doing that a lot around this girl from now on. Well, the bright side was that he would never get bored with her around. She collected all her books and began to walk. That moment was when Izuku understood how she ended up on the other side of the library. Mei had so many books that they covered her face, preventing her from seeing where she was going. Wait. He stopped her immediately and took half of the books. "If you walk like that, you're going to end up bumping into someone or something." "Thanks, Izu." Hatsume beamed at him, she had made a great discovery today, finding this partner. Izuku sighed again, but this time ended with a smile. In what kind of pandemonium he got himself into. Outside of the library, Mei walked with 2 enormous bags filled with books, and Izuku was at her side. "Oh yeah," something came to Hatsume's mind. "Give me your phone for a sec." "Sure, but what are you going to do with it?" He handed her his phone. Her fingers moved through it like lightning. "There." She finished, tossing the device to him. "I added my phone number, I will talk to you next week so we can start working on our babies," she said cheerfully. "See you later, Izu." She jogged away, leaving the boy behind. Izuku was like a statue, then suddenly his legs faltered and he fell on his knees. He raised his phone with both hands to the afternoon sun with trembling hands, like that scene from The Lion King. "I got the number of a girl," he shouted in his mind. What a great day to be alive. It was evening and the sun had been long gone. Izuku was on his way home, but there was still a long road ahead, after all, he was still in the city. Musatafu was a completely different place at night. All that light, those flashy songs, it always got his attention, it was in his nature of a feline, so it was to be expected. One of those signs took his emerald eyes away. Ever since he decided what kind of hero he wanted to be, new interest began to inhabit his mind. One of those few things was music, so a music shop really caught his attention. "Well, I have nothing to lose." He shrugged and entered the shop. Inside the shop, he noticed the decoration was rock or punk kind of type. He went to the shelves at the window, there were headphones for the customers so they could listen to the music and see if something caught their attention. The boy put some on, in an instant, his world was blown away. He closed his eyes, and his body began to move involuntarily at the rhythm of the music. Parallel to him, a girl with earphone jacks hanging from each of her earlobes at the end of 2 thin cords was finishing the purchase of an album in the same shop. She was now going for the door until something caught her attention. With the shelves at the window was a boy of her age listening to music, he danced in the places without caring about others. However, the thing that caught her attention was the headphones, it was because he had cat features that he was wearing the headphones in a way that was weird. The words escaped her mouth while she gave a smile to the uncommon scene. The emerald eyes of the boy shot open and stared directly at her, startling her mind. Shoot. Did he hear me? The girl named Kyokijiro cursed in her mind. She practically ran out of the shop with her face like a tomato. Midoriya saw the girl leave in a hurry, leaving him with one thought. Strange girl. Izuku left the shop with an album in his hands, it was good music. He headed home with a smile. Today was an eventful day. 4 months had passed since Izuku got the feline quirk. He and Mei now had an interesting relationship. They became good friends of course, yet the young boy feels he's more like a protective brother when it comes to some of her antics. She had put him through hell with the testing of her gadgets. Hatsume always puts everything of herself in their babies. Izuku began to admire these aspects of her as he spent more and more time with the cyberpunk girl. The dedication and effort she put into her babies, her mentality of not even questioning herself about if she can or can't do it and just do it, the happiness she showed whenever she succeeded in one of her experiments just to immediately continue with the next, or her determination, working on a failure until it becomes the opposite. Yeah, he learned a lot from this crazy girl. But of course, there is always the other side of the coin. Mei, more often than not, forgets about eating or even sleeping when it comes to working on one of her babies. Her workshop can and will become a mess in a matter of hours, and when she is by herself, the girl tends to disregard her own safety testing her gadgets. Nico. Izuku doesn't do it either when he is the one testing them, and don't listen to me so yeah, you're the one to talk sigh, and when all this stuff happened is when Izunai-chan comes out of the catboy. He even had learned the basics of Hatsume's work, so he can help her with something to fasten the process to give her more time. Alternatively, his training from hell continues, as always due to him making it harder every time. Now he uses bracelets with weight on his wrists and ankles to do most of his daily activities, and whenever he gets used to them, he adds even more weight. These bracelets are one of the babies of him and Mei, just with a switch, they can be weightless. At this moment, Midoriya is at the gym, almost done with his exercises. His ears moved in the direction of a phone ringing. The one who picked it up was Death Arms. Yes, I will be there immediately. The pro sounded serious. The man hung off the phone and spotted Midoriya looking at him. An emergency, I gotta go. He said swiftly while walking hastily to the changing room. He always carried his hero costume with him. I'm about to finish, I'll be there in no time to watch you, said Izuku, also serious. The pro hero just nodded without looking back, he knew what the boy meant by that. The kid wasn't going to be there to help him or anything, it was too dangerous for him. Midoriya was going to be there to watch him do his job, as reference for his future. Death Arms had left already, and now Izuku did too. He began to jog to the place of the incident, his face didn't betray any emotion. Ever since Nico's death, he stopped smiling when an incident happened. Before that event that marked his life, he was always happy and eager to see heroes do heroic deeds. Now he only showed happiness and relief just when he knew everyone was safe and sound, including the heroes. And for just to be sure, he turned the bracelets off. It was a building lit on fire. It was a 5 stories tall building, and the area around it was cordoned off, with a multitude around it. One of the advantages of his quirk allowed him to move through narrow places with ease, so getting to the front of the crowd was no issue. When he got there, he put his backpack on the floor and took out his notebook and a pencil, ready to write down everything about the hero's work. There were 4 pro heroes on the case, one of them was, of course, Death Arms, who was holding a part of the flaming place preventing the structure of the building from collapsing. In the center of the scandal was the pro hero, Backdraft doing his best to extinguish the fire. At his back was the snake hero, Iwabami, she was coordinating Backdraft and the other hero to rescue the people who were still inside that inferno. The last pro hero was Kamui Woods, he was using his quirk to rescue the victims who couldn't evacuate. Thanks to Iwabami detecting where exactly the victims were, Backdraft extinguished a little of the fire there, clearing the path for Kamui Woods. Will Death Arms buy them more time? It was a truly heroic harmony. As Kamui Woods rescued another person, the voices of the snake hero came out. That's the last of them. Giving green light to Backdraft to use all of his capabilities to finish the job. It was a huge success, or so that was what everyone thought. Part of the building exploded, propelling huge debris of concrete to fall over the unfortunate person on its way. That person was Iwabami. Damn it. The other 3 heroes yelled, having their hand completely full, they couldn't respond to the accident. Everyone in the multitude gasped in horror, everyone except for a green catboy, whose claws extended in less than a second, ripping his shoes and socks apart as he let his notebook fall. Iwabami knew she wouldn't be fast enough to get out of the way, so she stood there frozen, looking how her death came near. However, at the corner of her eyes, she saw a green blur, only so that a second later her world turned into blurry too. She closed her eyes not knowing what happened. The debris met the ground creating a huge thunderous sound, lifting an enormous cloud of dirt and smoke. When all that chaos ceased, Iwabami, who still had her eyes shut, heard a whine coming next to her left ear. Are you okay, Iwabami-san? The voice of a boy made her eyes go wide open. She found herself resting over a cat looking at the boy's torso. The teen in question had a smile on his face, a very painful and forced smile. Midoriya had moved so fast that when he tackled the hero and fell on the ground, he skidded quite a distance, making a really nasty bruise on his right shoulder and half of his back. It hurt like hell, but he endured it. A hero must always stay calm so as not to alarm the people who are saving. Iwabami stood up quickly with a worried tone. Where does this kid come from? And how did he get there? Were two dominant questions in her head. Iwabami. Please answer. Are you okay? The voice of Kamui Woods rumbled through the dust, taking her out of her thoughts. Yeah. I'm completely fine. She answered immediately, looking at the direction of her fellow hero. Thank God. Don't move. We're on our way. This time it was the voice of Death Arms. She smiled at them for being so worried about her safety until she remembered the boy. With a quick turn of her body, she came to see that the feline teen was gone, leaving her disoriented. Meanwhile, on top of a building in front of the incident was a man crouched with a smirk. He had light brown skin and a somewhat muscular physique. He had teal hair tied into a ponytail and an elongated face. He wore a black sleeveless unitard with a purple belt. He had a small desk fan attached to the back and teal sneakers with similar fans attached to them, but the most prominent features were his big hands and orange fingers. Heroes are so retarded. The man spoke with mockery. This was too fucking easy. Too bad that bitch didn't die. A very feminine and seductive voice came from behind the man. From the shadows appeared a tall woman with a very voluptuous figure. She had long, wavy, white hair, which was mostly tied into a ponytail, leaving 2 locks on the sides of her face and side bangs that covered her right eye. She wore light purple panties, a black low-cut sports bra, along with arm pads, a thin face mask, a large metal respirator, black ankle boots, and a utility belt with garters. She also wore purple gloves that were exposed at the back of her hand. The woman had a very seductive and derogatory smirk on her face. And all because of that catboy, she said, as she moved her left hand under her chest, accentuating them even more, while raising her other hand to her lips to begin tapping them. When she remembered that boy, her lips curved upwards into a sadistic smile. I could have fun with that kid and try to corrupt them. She licked her fingers, the thoughts she was having were alluring. Hey, forget about a brat. Why don't you try corrupting? Said the man next to her with a perverted smile. The girl exclaimed with disgust on her face. Because of the difference between you and that kid or any other man is that you're ugly as fuck. Now, continue blowing wind, boy, because that's all the blow you'll ever gonna get. She let out all of that with a straight face while playing with her bangs. The comment of her partner was such a turnoff. The man gritted his teeth in anger. You bitch, you'll see when, he began to mutter, but was interrupted. Hey, quit fantasizing or being creepy, you two, Ash, boy, we gotta go. A man behind them said. We have so much money to spend. The only thing that could be distinguished was the silhouette of a tall man with a muscular build. His right hand was 2 times bigger than his left. He was carrying multiple bags of money. Yeah. The other man referred to, as boy said while picking up more bags of money. Whatever you say, boss. The girl known as Ash responded as she lifted even more money. The 3 individuals got lost in the night. Izuku was in a back alley, trying to regain his breath. He ran from the incident as soon as Uwabami took her eyes from him. After all, he didn't want to be caught in the middle of that. Now, what am I going to do with this bruise? It still hurt like hell, and there was no way he would arrive home like that. What was all of that? A voice almost made the boy jump in place. He turned his head to the person who talked. Uwabami, he exclaimed in disbelief. How did she find him? You seriously can't think you can escape these beauties? She responded like knowing what he was thinking, pointing at her snakes. He slammed his head at the wall. Of course. How could he forget her quirk? Now, care to explain why you jumped into such a danger? She didn't look pleased either. Well, he has nowhere to run, might as well be honest. By the time I was conscious, I was already tackling you, Uwabami-san. He didn't stutter anymore, thanks to his time with Mei. But why? That wasn't the answer she was looking for. Do I need a reason to save someone in danger? Midoriya was calm. He didn't have anything to fear because what he did was the right thing. The snake hero was taken aback by that answer for a second. But it was dangerous. You could have died. She was a little angry about his disregard of his own safety. The words of All Might came to his mind. I want to be a hero, and I already know that heroes have to put their lives on the line in order to do their job. But you're still no hero. The life that should have been in danger was mine. I was the hero there. It was becoming harder and harder for her to keep her cool with this kid. The new sad tone of the boy stopped her hot-blooded emotions. The heroes risk their lives for the others. Who is the one who would keep heroes safe? Her eyes became wide in astonishment and fear. Is it because they are heroes that they don't need to be saved? She lowered her head and gritted her teeth. Then leave that to the other heroes. It was a little frustrating and sad that this kid saw the world so different from other kids of his age. She wasn't this conscious when she had his age, for God's sake. What happened to this kid? I do, but if they can't, and I'm there. Don't say it. The hero pleaded in her mind, already knowing it was futile. I would do it again. A single tear came from her right eye, not that the kid could see it. That's what heroes do, right? Izuku gave her a smile. Iwabami wanted to cry and let her emotions out, but she couldn't, not in front of someone else, not in front of this kid. Damn, not even the commercials she did were this demanding. Why did she feel like this? Was it because she had chosen to be more of a celebrity than a hero? So, what were you doing there, Iwabami-san? I thought Izuku tried to change the subject. He knew the atmosphere was heavy, but this was hard. What should he say? The pro-hero cleaned her eyes and raised her head. Ha. What do you mean? Or rather, why do you care? Izuku panicked, she was being too aggressive. Sorry, I wasn't trying to. He started his stuttering, maybe he needed more practice with women. I came here to roll a commercial, got a problem with that. She crossed her arms and gave him a pout. What am I doing? Why am I lashing out at him? He didn't do anything wrong. What is wrong with me, however? Inside of her was pure chaos. What? It's not too heroic for someone like you, she continued. Please, stop. Me. Not at all, Izuku said with a tender smile. That caught her off guard, making her blush a little. By being a celebrity, you're actually inspiring people to do different things, maybe even cheering somebody's day up. It's really heroic if you ask me. Her blush began to increase, she didn't see it like that at all. Just because you're not out there fighting villains or saving people doesn't mean it is not heroic, right? He tilted his head cutely with an even cuter smile. Everything related to being a hero was Izuku's favorite thing, so he spoke without shame, without measuring what he said. If Yubawami wasn't completely sure that it was physically impossible for her to eject steam from her ears, she would be doing that right now. Even her snakes were blushing, and the worst part was that she didn't know why. She was internally screaming out of happiness and anger at the same time. This damn kid did something to her that she didn't know what it was. Before she could say or do something embarrassing, her phone rang, snapping her out of her stupor. What is it? She answered the phone, her calm personality came back. What? Whatever she heard put her on alert, and so did Izuku. Understood, I'm on my way. And with that, she hung off. Did something happen? Izuku asked, worried. The bank a few blocks away was robbed. She informed me. They need me to track the villains down. Midoriya's mind jumped to something. Could it be that those responsible for the theft used the fire to distract the heroes? Hey. Yubawami's voices took him out of his thoughts, she sounded nervous for some reason. What's your name? She asked with a tint of red on her cheeks. Why was he so nervous asking a kid's name? Well, at least it was too dark for him to notice it. Unfortunately for her, Izuku had an excellent night vision. Does she have a fever, he thought. Oh, Izuku Midoriya. He answered. Midoriya, okay. Don't get yourself in trouble. She began to walk away. Iwami-san. He called for her. Could you please not tell anything about what I did to Death Arms? If he finds out that I put myself in danger, he'll punish me severely. The boy had dreaded eyes. They know each other, she asked, surprised in her mind. This made a smirk appear on her face. She would have fun teasing Izuku, as payback for all he made her feel. Who knows, you were a bad kid today, Midoria, maybe I should tell him right away. The flinch of terror in the boy's body was priceless. She wanted to tease him more. Unfortunately, she didn't have the time, so she just walked off, leaving the poor creature shivering there. Caround Izuku Midoriya. She said goodbye in her head while she had a big smirk. When Izuku lost sight of Iwami, he fell on his knees. Women are scary. He thought. After some minutes, Midoriya calmed down and stood up, and with tender eyes, he looked at his hands and smiled. It wasn't for nothing. He said in his mind as he clenched his hands into fists. The training is paying off. I saved someone today. He began to laugh. All this hell and sacrifice wasn't for naught. He really could become a hero. He began to walk to his home, happier than ever. This was a great day. What are you going to do with a bruise on your back? Nico's comment destroyed everything in an instant. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.